Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
And my name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Michael and the Savage Nation. Just guest host informed. Dr. Savage will be back tomorrow. You can go to michaelsavage.com for all the latest headlines, subscribe to the Savage newsletter, and pre-order Savage's latest political book. Not his last, his latest. Stop Mass Hysteria. So you can do all that at michaelsavage.com. Of course, we got to talk about what's going on with the Kavanaugh nomination and really what's going on with the country, because it's a microcosm of some of the craziness that's going on in the bizarro world we live in now. So we'll hit that. But I also want to get us some information on the lawnmower parents. You've heard about the helicopter parents. We're going to get to the lawnmower parents at the bottom of the hour. Lots to do. Okay, so let me just start with the latest that we have now on Judge Kavanaugh trying to be Justice Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court. And there's some new stuff coming out. Okay, we start with the Fox News updates on the demands that are coming. Because at first we'd heard, the attorneys for Dr. Ford. Dr. Ford, wants this looked at, and she wants to testify in open here. Well, that's what the Democrats were saying. We gotta have testimony. We gotta have another testimony. We gotta have it in front of the cameras. We gotta have it on TV. And of course, that was to go after Kavanaugh. But they were also, of course, she needs to testify too. And then her attorneys came out. Whoa! Wait a second. She doesn't necessarily want to testify, and certainly not before there's an FBI investigation. So after the Republicans had already said, okay, no problem, let's testify, let's get it going Monday. No, that's not enough. We've got to have an FBI investigation. Christine Blasey Ford, the California professor, claiming Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her more than 35 years ago, demanding a full investigation by the FBI, according to her attorneys, before she would attend any congressional hearing into her allegations. Let me translate. All right, listen, we didn't think you guys would really say yes to this hearing. So now that you've said yes, we got to move the goalposts, and we're going to say that there has to be an FBI investigation first. And if there's not, she's not going to testify. And that shows that you don't care about women. And that shows that you're not part of the Me Too movement. And that shows that you're going to support a rapist. And I don't know what else we can say about you. Let me translate it a little bit further. We want to delay this as long as we can. Hopefully get Kavanaugh totally off of any court. But if we can't do that, at least we can delay into the midterm elections. And then, hopefully, if the Democrats take over the Senate, then we can delay for 2 more years until the next presidential election. And then, hopefully, a Democrat will win. And then we'll let the Democrat put the justice on the Supreme Court. You think I'm kidding? Oh, no. We've already got senators talking about that. Senator from Hawaii talking about that. We'll get to that in a little bit. I can't make this stuff up. Now, one of Ford's lawyers, Lisa Banks, told CNN that her client will talk to the committee, but she's not prepared for the hearing on Monday. Oh, no, there should be no rush to a hearing. And these people have no sense of decency whatsoever. There should be no rush to a hearing. Your client gave the letter to her congresswoman months ago. Dianne Feinstein got it in July. Here we are in September. At the 11th hour, you drop this bomb after everything's been done, and nobody's ever asked Kavanaugh about this. He's been through 6 FBI investigations. None of this ever came up. There's no pattern of this kind of behavior. And now you want to say, there's no need to rush this. Of course there is, because you want to delay this to the midterms. This is the kind of thing that if it ever happens to you, you've got to think, I'm not in the United States of America anymore. The idea of any kind of presumed innocence, gone. You have to prove a negative. You have to prove your innocence. You have to prove you didn't do something, or your life is ruined. Your reputation is ruined. Your children's lives are ruined. Your wife's life is ruined. All because one person said you did this with zero evidence except what she says. Well, how dare you even question what she said? Now, wait a second. I'm actually not, I don't know who's telling the truth or not. I don't know either of these people. Here's what I do know. One person no matter who it is, should not be able to make an allegation from 36 years ago against another person, no matter who he or she is, and be able to totally derail a person's life without any evidence whatsoever. There is evidence. She's accusing him. That's an accusation is not evidence. Try that in a court of law. This isn't a court of law. It's the court of public opinion. So even there, you're assumed guilty? You have to prove a negative, which is an impossibility, or your life is over? That's where we are in America today. That's why I say we're living in a bizarre world. That's the total opposite of the whole idea in America of justice, of the right to face your accuser, of being presumed innocent until proven guilty. Now, again, I don't know if this woman's telling the truth. She absolutely could be telling the truth. But there has to be some evidence and some proof. I don't necessarily think she's lying. She may really believe this. There could be mistaken identity. There could be so many things that have changed throughout the years. Our memories change all the time. But the idea that just this one person saying this thing should totally have precedence over everything else that has happened, not only in this man's life, but in the entire proceedings up to nomination of a Supreme Court justice, turns everything we know about American legal jurisprudence and justice on its head. Thankfully, some Republicans are starting to grow a backbone. Even Senator Jeff Flake, who hates Trump and would love nothing more than to just stick it to him, said that they want to hear from Dr. Ford before voting. But if she chooses not to testify, he'd move forward. Then there's Senator Bob Corker, also no fan of Trump, who would love to twist the knife in him, tweeted late yesterday that the Republican leadership took immediate action to ensure Ford and Kavanaugh could be heard. If we don't hear from both sides on Monday, that would be this coming up Monday, let's vote. But, oh, no. This is unbelievable. Listen to what one of Ford's attorneys wrote to Senator Grassley. While Dr. Ford's life was being turned upside down, you and your staff scheduled a public hearing for her to testify at the same table as Judge Kavanaugh in front of 24 U.S. senators on national television to relive this traumatic and harrowing incident. The Republicans said, no, that's not true. We never said that she would sit at the same table. And we also offered her to testify either privately or publicly. You're making stuff up. Yeah, are you surprised? I mean, are you really surprised? The lawyers also say, there is precedent for FBI investigations into this. The FBI investigated Clarence Thomas, over the Anita Hill situation. That's because she was a federal employee, and what she had alleged happening was fairly contemporaneous and was something the FBI could actually investigate because it was federal. It was under the Federal Bureau of Investigation's purview. This, we're talking about a crime that has absolutely zero federal connections 36 years ago, that would be a local crime if you could investigate it at all, since there's no evidence and she can't even tell you exactly when and where it happened, and there are no witnesses. There would be no investigation to do. But see, so you're not going to do one. The FBI actually says it's totally inappropriate. This is a federal law enforcement official talking to Fox News. It's totally inappropriate for someone to demand we use law enforcement resources to investigate a 36-year-old allegation when she won't go under oath and can't remember key details, including when or where it happened. Well, why should she have to do that? Now, listen, I actually agree. My background is in counseling psychology. And I will actually agree with people that sometimes people who are traumatized cannot remember dates and times and places. I will grant you that. The problem is you need that to actually prove something. You need something beyond just, I said it. And unfortunately, that's all they've gotten so far. So we got some interesting new stuff coming out. Dianne Feinstein told Fox News earlier yesterday that she couldn't be sure that Dr. Ford was being totally truthful. Let's hear Cut J, please, from Senator Feinstein. Listen to this one. Cut J.
I have no say. I'm the lead Democrat, so this is all up to the Republican side. I can't say everything's truthful. I don't know.
Wait, but you're the whole reason this got started when you could have started it in July. She asked to remain anonymous. You said you were going to abide by that, but forwarded it to the FBI, who said, hey, listen, we're background on this. We're done. But somebody leaked it and got her name out there. She'd already taken a polygraph, by the way, in August. This comes out in September. Why did she do that if she didn't want to come out? There are so many crazy things going on in this that we're just getting started. Oh, and here's some of the news stuff today. Senator Grassley came out, and he tweeted up a storm. Here we go. Here's tweets. Dr. Ford shouldn't be threatened or insulted, and she deserves to be heard. That was on the heels of their lawyer saying that she's been threatened, which unfortunately I'm sure she has. Just like I'm sure Judge Kavanaugh has been threatened, and his family's been threatened. And we've got crazy, crazy people in politics today that love to get online and threaten people or call people, and it's got to stop. It's ridiculous. And, you know, when we allow things like Antifa and the far left to get as violent as they've gotten and not crack down on it, is it any surprise that this continues to happen? So Dr. Ford shouldn't be threatened or insulted. Agree. She deserves to be heard. Fine. I expect my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to be respectful and treat this situation with sensitivity it deserves. He goes on. We're going to continue to try to hear from Dr. Ford in any format she's comfortable with. Open session, closed session, private staff interviews, public staff interviews, because her information is very important. We've provided an opportunity for her to put her story forward on Monday. So you can see it. Right now, the Republicans are like, okay, listen, we got to be careful here. We got to make sure everybody understands. We're trying to be as fair as we can. We're trying to we understand that women need to be heard. We get that. We're listening. But you have to actually talk. You have to actually have some evidence. Don't say that. You can't say that. Be very careful. Don't offend anybody. Grassley continues. If Senate Democrats think they need the FBI to investigate, why didn't they alert the FBI on July 30? As soon as I learned of the allegations from the Washington Post on Sunday, I moved swiftly to follow up on Dr. Ford's allegations, as the FBI has said its role here is complete. Committee investigators are following up on the leads from Dr. Ford's allegations and news stories. No other outside investigation is necessary for the committee to do its investigation. Don't know why the Dems are refusing to cooperate in the committee's investigation. I hope Dems will join me. Yeah, it's delay, and then, oh yeah, delay. Well, we've got another former classmate of Kavanaugh's denying being at that party. That brings two of them that say they weren't there. And we've got some people connected in conservative judicial circles saying more evidence is coming to support Kavanaugh. And this thing might look a lot different in a few days. I'm going to get you all that and a lot of audio in just a moment. We're just getting started here. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm filling in for Dr. Savage on the Savage Nation.
Savage.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Knapp. I am filling in for Savage on the Savage Nation. Now, he'll be back tomorrow. You can go for the latest headlines, his newsletter, and his latest books, Mass Hysteria, all at michaelsavage.com. We're talking about the Kavanaugh nomination and this last-second accusation that somehow 36 years ago when he was 17, he was at a party drunk and attacked this 15-year-old young lady at the time by pinning her down on a bed, rubbing her through her clothes, and trying to force himself on her, according to her letter, until another guy jumped on top and they rolled off the bed and she was able to run to the bathroom. That's the accusation. Totally denied by Judge Kavanaugh and now by two of the people that appear to be named in this letter. That's some of the new stuff. Patrick J. Smith, he wrote this in a letter that's been obtained now by CNN and other news sites, denying any improper conduct from Judge Kavanaugh. Quote, I understand that I've been identified by Dr. Ford as the person she remembers as PJ, who supposedly was present at the party she described in her statements to the Washington Post. I am issuing this statement today to make it clear to all involved that I have no knowledge of the party in question, nor do I have any knowledge of the allegations of improper conduct she has leveled against Brett Kavanaugh. Personally speaking, I have known Brett Kavanaugh since high school, and I know him to be a person of great integrity, a great friend, and I have never witnessed any improper conduct by Brett Kavanaugh towards women. To safeguard my own privacy and anonymity, I respectfully request that the committee accept this statement in response to any inquiry in the committee may have. So here's another guy saying, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't even know what party you're talking about. I wasn't there. Now, I don't know how you can say you weren't at a party that she can't even tell you when the party was unless you were never at a party with her. Same thing I would ask Judge Kavanaugh. So I think they're just saying, look, we don't know. I don't know what party she's talking about. Because there's also the other friend of Judge Kavanaugh, Mark Judge. His attorney put forward a letter to Chairman Grassley and Feinstein and says that Mark wants to say this, quote, I did not ask to be involved in this matter, nor did anyone ask me to be involved. The only reason I am involved is because Dr. Ford remembers me as the other person in the room during the alleged assault. By the way, the notes from her therapist that she released, her therapist said that she told her there were 4 people involved in the assault, not 2. Also never named Judge Kavanaugh, according to the therapist. But hey, people forget things. Back to the letter. Mark Judge. In fact, I have no memory of this alleged incident. Brett Kavanaugh and I were friends in high school, but I do not recall the party described in Dr. Ford's letter. More to the point, I never saw Brett act in the manner Dr. Ford describes. I have no more information to offer the committee. All right, so there you go. Well, sure, that's because these guys all hang together. I mean, didn't you hear Kavanaugh? I want you listen to this. This is something that Senator Elizabeth Warren was able to find, and she got it up on Twitter pretty quick, man. I want you to listen to Cut P here. Cut P, where Judge Kavanaugh was giving a little speech, and he tried to be Mr. Funny Man, talking about his prep days.
But fortunately, we had a good saying that we've held firm to this day, as the dean was reminding me before the talk, which is what happens at Georgetown Prep stays at Georgetown Prep. Oh. That's been a good thing for all of us, I think.
Oh, did you hear that? What happens at Georgetown Prep stays at Georgetown Prep? Oh, man. That's it right there. He just admitted to rape. I mean, there's nothing else we need to do. It's all over. Take him, remove his nomination, get him down, and I don't think anybody should put anything up until we have the new Democrat elected president. Wait. That was edited a little bit. We're going to play the whole thing in a minute. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Savage. I'm Savage.
Savage.
But fortunately, we had a good saying that we've held firm to this day, as the dean was reminding me before the talk, which is what happens at Georgetown Prep stays at Georgetown Prep.
Oh,
that's been a good thing for all of us, I think.
Oh, Judge Kavanaugh giving a talk. I think it was at Columbus Law School. I think it was, and he was giving a talk, and he just admitted to rape right there. I mean, Senator Warren put it up. Could you believe this? Would any high school parent want this to be their child talking about? This is just a horror. So I guess anybody who's been to Vegas is a rapist, right? Because, I mean, that's where that slogan really was from. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So that means everybody who goes to Vegas because of that slogan is there to rape people. I mean, that's obviously what that is. So I'm glad they got that out. But, of course, that was Senator Warren's edited version. They got a little bit longer to let her know that it wasn't the slogan of the school. It was just 3 teenagers who maybe thought they were being funny. Listen to Cut N.
By coincidence, 3 classmates of mine at Georgetown Prep were graduates of this law school in 1990 and are really, really good friends of mine, Mike Bidwell, Don Ergo, and Phil Merkel, and they were good friends of mine then and are still good friends of mine as recently as this weekend when we were all on email together. But fortunately, we had a good saying that we've held firm to this day, as the dean was reminding me before the talk, which is what happens at Georgetown Prep stays at Georgetown Prep. That's been a good thing for all of us, I think.
That's called a joke. Well, how could he? And this was obviously before all this happened. This was 2015 that he said this, and it was a joke. These Democrats have lost their freaking minds, and they really think this is like dispositive proof that Kavanaugh is a reprobate. And how dare we even think about putting somebody like that on the Supreme Court? Let me get some of your thoughts, and then I want to get you this new information coming from some conservative circles that say there may be some evidence coming to support Kavanaugh in the next few days. Let me get Peter first. Peter, you are on the Savage Nation. My name is Greg Knapp, filling in. Go right ahead.
Great show. I wanted to share with you, I was listening to your timeline surrounding Dr. Ford's accusation, et cetera. And, something that I think you might have missed, but I picked it up last night with Senator Lindsey Graham, who indicated that not only did this doctor have a polygraph test administered in August, she also hired her attorneys for some reason. And it's very unusual, assuming that she's being honest about the fact that she never wanted to come forward, especially being she sent this letter in July. Now she's getting a polygraph in August, got her attorneys lined up in August as well, as if this wasn't a plan. And it's unbelievable that we allow them to run away with the narrative. But one last point. The other point is, if just imagine a worst case scenario, a couple of high school kids at a party. What is it that gives this girl the right to point her finger? How do we know she wasn't at the party, drunk as a skunk, and acting like a little slut herself? How do we know that?
And Pete, thanks for the call. But see, now that right there, that statement is what so many on the left are hoping a Republican senator will say, because that will offend so many voters that they will be able to get rid of Judge Kavanaugh. Now, to Peter's point, there is this thing of being able to say, if everybody's drunk and everybody's acting the fool, isn't there some blame to go around for everybody? Well, yeah, but there's never an excuse for sexual assault. Never. I don't care what you were wearing. I don't care how drunk you were. I don't care whatever. There's never an excuse for sexual assault if it really happened. But it's like what I said this when the Mike Tyson thing happened. Desiree Washington absolutely did not deserve to be raped by Mike Tyson. It is not her fault she was raped by Mike Tyson. Absolutely not at all. But if Desiree Washington was my daughter, I would still say to my daughter, sweetie, why did you go to Mike Tyson's apartment at 3 a.m.? You don't know the guy. And you're going to his apartment at 3 a.m.? Daddy, are you blaming me? No, not at all, sweetie. I'm just trying to say, let's not ever do something like that again, because I want you safe. Just like, would you ever just get stinking drunk and walk down an alley with money sticking out of your pockets in a really bad part of your town at 2 a.m.? No, of course you wouldn't. Why? Because that's stupid. But if somebody mugged you, would it be your fault? No, it wouldn't be your fault. It would still be the fault of the mugger. But you were also making a really dumb decision. So you can't have more than one thing be true at the same time. Now, I will get back to what Peter said about Dr. Ford saying she wanted to remain anonymous. July, Feinstein has the letter. August, Dr. Ford takes a polygraph and gets attorneys. And September, we finally learn about it. Doesn't sound right, does it? However, it could have gone something like this. Dr. Ford goes to her congresswoman and wants to remain anonymous. Congresswoman thinks we've got something here that maybe could really stop Kavanaugh. Gets it to Feinstein. Feinstein says, I don't know. It's kind of thin. I don't think they can really do anything with this. But, we'll see. Then it starts to leak that she has this letter and she better get it out or the progressives are going to have the pitchforks for her. And while all this is going on, the Democrats that know about this letter reach out to Ford, Dr. Ford, and say, you know what? We got to lawyer you up. We got to get a polygraph going. We got to be, just in case, we got to be ready for this. Sure, all that could happen. Which shows you once again that this is really, from the Democratic side, all about politics, not about this woman, because she asked not to be identified. Well, unless she didn't really mean that. But, okay, let me get you this. Ed Whelan over at National Review Online. This is a guy who's tied in to the conservatives in the legal world. Listen to some of his tweets today. By 1 week from today, I expect that Judge Kavanaugh will have been clearly vindicated on this matter. Specifically, I expect that compelling evidence will show his categorical denial to be truthful. There will be no cloud over him. He went on. Senator Feinstein will soon be apologizing to Judge Kavanaugh. Again, another one. Funny how the attorney didn't seek an investigation 2 months ago. A week from now, I doubt that any fair-minded person will think that any further investigation is necessary, at least not concerning any alleged wrongdoing by Kavanaugh. And then he wrote this. A horrific incident similar to the one the accuser alleges may well have occurred, but if so, she's got the wrong guy. Kavanaugh wasn't present, as this and much more will confirm. And then add a link about P.J. Smith, the guy I told you about at the top, that says he wasn't at the party either, and she said he was. So there are some people now saying that there may be a little mistaken identity going on here. Rich Lowry tweeted out, level of confidence of the Kavanaugh supporters at the moment, very high. Then there was a woman who says she was a year ahead of Ford in high school. She put a post on Facebook last night. She claimed that the incident with Kavanaugh was talked about at the time. Now, remember, Dr. Ford said she didn't tell anybody till 2012. So how did this woman get this? Well, she's now come out and said, to all media, I will be not doing any more interviews, no more circus. To clarify my post, I do not have firsthand knowledge of the incident that Dr. Ford mentions, and I stand by my support for Christine. That's it. I don't have any more to say on the subject. How about that? Wow. Wow. Let me get Joe in. He wants to talk about Dianne Feinstein for a second. Joe, you were on the Savage Nation. My name's Greg Knapp filling in. Go right ahead.
Greg, yes, I think the focus should be on Dianne Feinstein. I believe she's the architect, the way I assess it, and she's the engineer of this. She orchestrated this. She had it for 2 months. And why would she do that? Well, first of all, the left always uses the ends justifies the means at any cost. They want an end. The other thing with Dianne Feinstein, I think it's a cover-up. It's a blanket to protect her from the investigation that was going on with her driver. She had this Chinese connection, this Chinese spy
right
as her driver for 18 years. So that's been all pushed to the background.
It was before this, though, Joe. Nobody seemed to care because she's a Democrat. You know, oh yeah, well, it was just the driver. Who cares? It was no big deal. And we find out it was kind of a big deal. But it was already pushed to the back. Joe, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. I do think even some liberals are upset at the way Dianne Feinstein has been handling this. Want to know just how crazy the world has gotten? Okay, maybe this will give you a little bit of an example of just how crazy the world has gotten. All across the media now, even some conservative media, are talking about the optics. If Dr. Ford really does testify Monday in front of this congressional committee, all of the cross-examination will be done by old, white men. Really? Yeah, the Washington Free Beacon put together a little montage from MSNBC, from CNN, a lot of different anchors and guests. Listen to Cut E, you white men, you.
Once again, it will be all white men on the Republican side of the Judiciary Committee questioning both Judge Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford.
The Republicans that are on the Judiciary Committee, it is a lineup of white guys over the age of 50.
All the white men on the Senate Judiciary Committee.
You've got all white men on the Republican side here.
On the Republican side, all 11 are white men. The Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee, it's 11 white men. And the Republicans, it is 11 white men. The Republicans, it happens to be 11 white men.
Are these white Republican men essentially going to ask her if she's telling the truth?
25 years since the Anita Hill hearings, what hasn't changed is the number of white men. I know, have covered lots of these white men.
And so at the end of the day, if they have a bunch of white men once again defending another white man.
You have 70-something-year-old white men, no offense to them, who don't like their process being disrupted.
On the Senate Judiciary Committee is all white men.
Almost worst-case scenario for a bunch of white men on the Senate Judiciary Committee cross-examining Dr. Ford.
Wow. You just got to listen to all that. And I love, no offense to them, these 70-year-old white men. So if you're an elected senator and you happen to be white and over the age of 50, you don't get to ask questions of a woman? So now we're going to reach the point where you have to be the same sex and the same race to interview someone or ask questions or do your sworn elected duty. So these men, these white old men, should recuse themselves from doing their elected duty in the Senate because they're old white men. And if not, well, obviously they just don't understand Me Too. This is the bizarro world we're living in. That there are actually people that think that that's how it should be. Man, it is a crazy, crazy world we're living in, man. I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut. Man, I got tons of thoughts on these accusations against Kavanaugh that I want to get you to. And we're going to do that at the top of the hour. But there are some other stories out there as well. And I want to get you this story about lawn mower parents. The helicopter parents, well, that's out. In the new hotness, lawnmower parents. I'll explain what they are. Maybe you're one. We'll get to it in just a minute. 855-400-SAVAGE gets you on the show. 855-400-SAVAGE. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Michael Savage on the Savage Nation.
Savage.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Knapp. I am in for Dr. Savage on the Savage Nation. He'll be back tomorrow. Check out michaelsavage.com for the headlines, the newsletter, and to pre-order Stop Mass Hysteria. All at michaelsavage.com. 855-400-SAVAGE to get you on board. And I'll continue to talk about the Kavanaugh situation, but I also want to throw at you a couple other things. Have you heard of the lawnmower parents? Now, I know you've heard of helicopter parents. Well, that's all out. The new hotness is lawnmower parents. Now, this is a lawnmower parent. Someone who is willing to mow down all the obstacles in front of their kids so they won't have to experience them in the first place. Instead of preparing their children for challenges, they just take the challenges out of the way. And this came from a Facebook post by a teacher that went viral, an anonymous middle school teacher. Here's what she says happened. Said that she was summoned to the school's office to pick up something that a parent dropped off for a student. And she said, I thought it was going to be something essential like an inhaler or maybe money for dinner. But no. A father was there in his suit for the midday drop-off. And she said he sheepishly began with, "Hi, sorry." And then he handed over an insulated water bottle. He said, my daughter kept texting me that she needed it, and I texted back, "Don't they have water fountains at your school? But I guess you just had to have it out of the bottle." He laughed, as if to say, teenagers, right? That's a lawnmower parent. This is why I weep for the future. Because this is not just a Facebook post. My wife is a teacher, and she had kids. Now, she's only first grade teacher, but she had a kid literally in tears because she forgot her water bottle. Do we live in the desert? Is there something I don't know about the need for constant hydration? Can we not make it, 30 minutes to an hour before we take a sip of water again? The kids are not sitting out in the middle of 100-degree heat. They're in an air-conditioned classroom. There are water fountains everywhere. My wife actually said to her, "Honey, do you need to get some water? You can go out to the hallway and get some water out of the water fountain." "No, I don't. You don't need any water." "No, I just want my water bottle." "Well, honey, I'm sorry. You don't have your water bottle. You forgot your water bottle. You have to bring it tomorrow." "You sure you don't want a drink of water?" "No." Even some of the kids were like, "Why don't you just get a drink of water out of the water fountain?" "My water bottle." It's like that dude in Office Space, "I need a stapler. I had a stapler. That's not my stapler. You got to have. Why, someone took my stapler out of it." It's a water bottle. Buck up. And we're raising kids that can't even handle not having a water bottle. And we can't figure out why they can't handle any challenge that faces them. Like getting a stamp for an envelope? What's a stamp? Oh, we got a lot more on Kavanaugh. Hang in. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Savage on the Savage Nation.
Savage. Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Savage on the Savage Nation. How you doing? Oh, man, we got so much to talk about. So much going on with the Judge Kavanaugh story. And we'll hit all that. We got audio for you. I've got your phone calls. Many people wanting to get in on this, and I understand you've been waiting patiently. We'll get to you. There's just so much to talk about on this today, and the story just keeps changing. And the latest is another person with Judge Kavanaugh that was identified kind of by Dr. Ford has come forward. He said that you identified me as PJ. I wasn't there. I have no recollection of anything like this. I've never seen Judge Kavanaugh treat women in any derogatory way at all, paraphrasing here from his letter. That's the second man now that has said, I have no idea what she's talking about, beyond Judge Kavanaugh himself. There are people on the conservative side that said they believe that there's going to be evidence coming out in the next few days to a week that will justify Judge Kavanaugh saying that he was not a part of this, and he totally denies it happening. So a lot of things moving and changing on this, that even some Republicans like Corker and Flake have said if Dr. Ford refuses to testify, we're going to have the vote, because we're not going to let them delay this, because that's all they're trying to do if they're not going to have her testify. Again, paraphrasing. Well, so I wanted to give you some of my thoughts on the accusations against Judge Kavanaugh and what happened here, and I would love to know what you think about all this, because I'm sure it's all been rattling through your brain, too, as you've been reading and watching all this. And I mean, I really feel like I'm living in a bizarro world, this idea that you're no longer innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty till proven innocent. And it's funny how that wasn't that way when it was President Clinton that was being accused of all this. By numerous women, by the way. Not one. All right, so let's get to some of my thoughts. Here's what I was thinking. Timing, unbelievable. Now, that's blamed on Senator Feinstein and the Democrats. They've had this since July? Since July. And never asked them about it until the hearings and the interviews were over. The woman said she wanted to be anonymous. Now she's not anonymous. And not because she chose to, but because somebody outed her, because the Democrats wanted this out. What does that tell you? And then we get to this. This is impossible to prove or disprove. When you have something from 36 years ago, and you have no evidence from the time, no report at the time, no witnesses from the time, how in the world are you ever going to prove this one way or the other? She didn't tell anyone until 2012. Why? Well, you wouldn't tell anyone? Not even your best friend? Well, that happens. It does happen. Sometimes people just bottle it up. They don't tell anybody. So why 2012? Well, she was in couples therapy. And Judge Kavanaugh's name was in the press because, hey, if a Republican was in, he might be on the short list for the Supreme Court. That didn't happen, but that's when it all came out. The problem is the therapist notes contradict some of what Dr. Ford had said. Dr. Ford said there were 2 people who were part of the attackers. She told the therapist there were 4. She said she told the therapist the name was Judge Kavanaugh. The therapist doesn't have the name. But, you know, that's just a little tiny thing, right? She can't tell you the basics of where and when this happened. Now, it could be a traumatic event blocked it out. I'm not saying that's not true. But the point is, when you're trying to say somebody did something that will ruin their lives and the lives of their wife and children and destroy the career and credibility and just respect that this man has, don't you need more than just I say it happened? Don't you actually need some evidence? Don't you actually need to know where and when this happened? I mean, otherwise, how in the world can anybody determine whether it's true or not? Well, it's true because she said so and she's a woman and you have to believe her. Is that really the standard we're going to do now? So let me ask you this. Let's say this accusation is against you and you know you didn't do it and there's nothing you can do about it because a woman accused you and that's it, case closed. How's that feel? Doesn't matter what you did your entire life, that one woman came forward and said that you did that and you're done. How's that feel? And it doesn't matter what you say, you can't refute it. And she doesn't need any evidence whatsoever. Does that sound right to you? Now, okay, women, let me ask you this. It was your son. This happens to your son, who you know is a very fine young man that you raised, who would never do that to a woman in his life. And a woman comes out and says that, and he tells you, Mom, I promise you, I never did this. I don't even know what this woman's talking about. But it doesn't matter because she said it. She has to be believed. Then, Mom, you'd believe the woman, right? Well, that's different. How's it different? It's not different at all, except now you're understanding what it's really like. Memories fade and change. Memories fade and change depending on all kinds of things. What have you read? What have you watched? What have your friends said? What have other people you know been through? All kinds of things can impact what you remember about you. So she could really believe she's telling the truth. She could have convinced herself that. Or, or maybe she is telling the truth. I don't know. And you don't either. No one knows except Judge Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford. So normally when that happens, the presumption of innocence reigns. But now we've turned it on its head. By the way, usually when this type of behavior actually happens, there's a pattern of it, right? He's had 6 different FBI background checks. None of them turned up anything like this before. He's got women going on the record saying this is one of the finest men I've ever worked with. He's got former girlfriends coming up and testifying for him. He's got people that went to school with him signing letters to testify for him. Oh, yeah, well, the women have letters now. 200 women signed a letter for Dr. Ford, too. And they said they've heard of these things, when they were at school, too. Oh, you mean she told them that this happened with Judge Kavanaugh? No, but we heard it from other people that men were doing this to women. What in the world does that have to do with this? Well, it just shows that men do this. All men do that? Yep, all men. So we can now say all men are rapists or potential rapists, right? All men are potential rapists. Actually, all men are rapists as soon as the woman says it. That's what we want? Usually, like I said, there's a pattern. Bill Clinton, pattern of behavior. Harvey Weinstein, pattern of behavior. Bill Cosby, pattern of behavior. Not so with Kavanaugh. Even liberal women were supporting him before this came out. Only one person has said he's the kind of guy who could do this. And we've got too many Democrats that want this nomination stopped by any means necessary. They don't care about the truth. They want to delay it. If possible, stop it. If they can't stop it, at least delay it. Delay it to the midterms and then delay it to the next presidential election. I got some audio on that in a second. That's what they're actually saying now. So here's my question. Can one unprovable accusation by one person without any other evidence ruin your life and your career, destroy your reputation, derail your Supreme Court nomination, hurt your family? Is that how you want things to work in America? All men are now assumed to be rapists or attempted rapists until proven innocent? Really? By the way, why is it okay to say that that's all men? Let's stereotype all men, but we can't stereotype any other group. No, only all men. And all serious people see the double standard going on here. How conservatives and liberals are treated differently on this. Kavanaugh compared to Clinton. By the way, compared to Ellison, Keith Ellison. Have you been following that story? Keith Ellison, deputy DNC chair. His accuser, his former girlfriend, Karen Monahan, tweeting out, I was asked if my party believed me when I broke my silence regarding Keith Ellison. Here was my response to them. 4 people, including my supervisor at the time, stated that I came to them after and shared their exact story. I shared publicly. I shared multiple texts between me and Keith where I discussed the abuse with him, much more. As I said before I knew I wouldn't be believed. She said she's been smeared, threatened by her own party, the Democratic Party, in an attempt to protect their nominee for Minnesota Attorney General. Wait, I thought women were supposed to be believed. Well, when they accuse conservatives, sure. But not when they accuse liberals. The liberals, the Democrats, and the media, but of course I repeat myself. They're now saying you can't even ask the accuser any information or you're blaming the victim. So now the big question is, are the Republicans going to cave and allow Kavanaugh to be borked by a kangaroo court, or are they going to do the right thing? Senator Hirono from Hawaii. She actually came out and said that the White House and the Republicans are trying to victimize the accuser. Listen to this. Jim, I think you had that one from Senator Hirono.
I think it's appalling. I'm totally disappointed that all these people who have come forward to say, we should hear from her. And now that she's expecting a modicum of fairness so she's not re-victimized, are now saying, well, if she doesn't want to testify, we should just go ahead. That is additional callousness from my colleagues that I am totally appalled by.
A modicum of fairness? No, she's asking for an FBI investigation into something that's not a federal crime that happened 36 years ago that the local police won't investigate because there's no evidence. And the FBI has already done their background check on him, interviewed her, and put that information into the actual background check. They don't do criminal investigations on things that aren't federal crimes that happened 36 years ago. That's what you're demanding. Oh, but that wasn't all from Hirono. She was asked, does it make any difference that there are some women on the Democratic side, and when they interview and ask questions of Dr. Ford, if she comes before you, and listen to Hirono cut L.
We need to.
Of course it helps that there are women on that committee, but you know what? I expect the men in this country and the men in this committee, and many of them, believe me, because we all signed on to this letter to demand an FBI investigation, but really, guess who's perpetuating all of these kinds of actions? It's the men in this country, and I just want to say to the men in this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing for a change.
Yeah, see all you men? You should just shut up. You men don't have a right to talk. You're all just rapists or attempted rapists or potential rapists. You all are the problem. All you men. I'm sick of all you men. Just shut up, men. And that's okay for a sitting senator to say to all men. Wow. All right. I know a lot of you want to get in. I'm going to get your phone calls. We've got a lot more audio from President Trump, from Hillary Clinton, Dianne Feinstein, and more. I want to know what you think is going on here and what you think will be the final outcome. You can jump in at 855-400-SAVAGE. My name's Greg Knapp, filling in for Michael Savage on the Savage Nation.
Savage.
And I just want to say to the men of this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing for a change.
That's U.S. Senator Hirono, Democrat, Hawaii. And, yeah, it's all men. Men are the problem. All you men, rapists, potential rapists, attempted rapists, you're all the same. Men. Time for you to step up. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Michael Savage on the Savage Nation. This is how crazy these things are getting. Where we've got, look, like I said, I don't know if this woman is telling the truth, if she thinks she's telling the truth and remembers it differently, or if she's lying, or if Judge Kavanaugh is telling the truth, or if he's lying. But the point is, one person making an allegation who can't remember where it happened, when it happened, who was there, and there's no witnesses and no evidence. How in the world can we allow that then to totally destroy a man and his family's life? Well, because you got to believe him no matter what. Well, why? Let me get some of your thoughts. Let's start with Sherry. Sherry, you are on the Savage Nation. My name's Greg Knapp, filling in. Go right ahead.
Hi there, Knapp. Thank you so much for filling in. You're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
I am really here to say that it's disgusting. It's so horrible what these women are doing. I've been in that situation where I was ostracized by many of my supposed friends because I refused to go along with their lies and sitting there trying to say a young boy had done something ill-advised towards them just because they wanted attention, whatever it was, but they were going to ruin this young man's life.
Now, wait a second, Sherry. You're saying that you actually were in a situation where they admitted to you they were lying, that they just were doing this to mess with the kid?
Was actually there when they were figuring out what can we do to get back at this person because she pretty much denied them wanting to date one of them. It's just that, it's that sick, it's that simple, and all these women want to act, oh, I got these big cojones now, I'm going to get these bad men, but then they can't show up and actually do anything face-to-face. I don't think there's anything okay with that. And I know many great men, and this Kavanaugh man, I haven't seen or heard anything, and it's obviously very suspicious. It comes up right at the very end.
Right.
It's disgusting.
Sherry, thank you for the call. I appreciate you getting in. I would never have said that women are sitting around trying to do something like this. And Sherry said, oh, yeah, I was there at the beginning. I was there when it happened. Well, of course, we have the infamous Duke lacrosse case. You know, we have some cases where this has been 100% lies. Now, like I said, I have no idea if Dr. Ford is telling the truth or lying or remembering something wrong, or if Judge Kavanaugh is telling the truth, lying, or remembering something wrong. The point is, no one does except them, and there's no way to prove it, so we're assuming guilt now instead of assuming innocence. We got some audio from Hillary you need to hear, President Trump, your phone calls, and a lot more on what's going on with Kavanaugh. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Dr. Savage on the Savage Nation.
Savage.
Honestly, I feel terribly for him, for his wife, who is an incredible, lovely woman, and for his beautiful young daughters. I feel terribly for them.
There's President Trump taking the high road, and he said he felt bad about the whole situation. He felt bad about the way the Democrats have done it, not just to Judge Kavanaugh, but to Dr. Ford. We'll get more of his audio in a minute. Of course, we're talking about the Judge Kavanaugh Supreme Court nomination, Dr. Ford coming out and alleging an attempted sexual assault. The far left going nuts over this. Senator Feinstein, who should have brought this immediately up when she was given the letter in July, should have talked to Judge Kavanaugh about it during the hearings, during the private sessions. Didn't do any of that. Waits till everything's done, throws it out at the end. Come on. Really? And unfortunately, this woman, Dr. Ford, there's no evidence here except her allegation. Now, that doesn't mean she's lying, but it also doesn't mean that Judge Kavanaugh is lying, and they should destroy his entire career and life. One person. That's how we want it to be. Wow. All right. My name is Greg Knapp. I'm filling in for Dr. Savage on the Savage Nation. And, you know, this senator from Hawaii, Hirono, Mazie Hirono, Democrat, listen to this. She said, she said, not only do women like Dr. Ford, who bravely come forward, need to be heard, but they need to be believed. They need to be believed. You know, like Juanita Broderick needed to be believed, or Kathleen Willey, or, you know, Paula Jones, or all the other, quote, bimbo eruptions, as Hillary Clinton and team called them. Or like the accuser of Representative Keith Ellison, the Democrat DNC chair who's running for Attorney General in Minnesota. She's now tweeted out a medical document saying she feared retribution by the Democrats if she went public with the physical and emotional abuse that she claims to have had happen from Ellison. Allegations, including at the doctor's office, they said she did not have any physical injuries that required a physical examination in the past. But she states that she had lived in a very stressful emotional environment for years. Emotional and physical abuse by Ellison. And, of course, you remember her son found a video of the congressman dragging his mother from bed and screaming at her. But, you know, hey, that's not, we shouldn't pay attention to that. This is, but we've got to believe this. We've got to believe Dr. Ford. And that means that we have to delay this and have a FBI investigation. Mazie Hirono. Not only do women like Dr. Ford, who bravely come forward, need to be heard, they need to be believed. They need to be believed. We have to create an environment where women can come forward and be heard and listened to. Well, I agree with that. She has every right to come forward. She has every right to testify. She has every right to give her side of the story. But you don't have a right to be believed if you don't have any evidence. But what about the right to be innocent until proven guilty? No, that's gone if you're a man. If you're a man, because you're part of the problem. Remember, the same Senator Hirono. Let's hear cut M one more time from Hirono on you men.
And I just want to say to the men of this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing for a change.
Yeah, that's right. All you men, just shut up. Let me get Joe in. Joe, you're on the Savage Nation. My name's Greg Knapp, filling in. Go right ahead.
Yeah. How come they allowed the women senators to question the judge? He should only be questioned by men.
Well, you know, that's different, Joe. Women can question men. Men just can't question women. I mean, come on, you know that.
This is to be allowed, this only woman or whatever, what's going to happen in courtrooms when you have a woman saying that she was robbed or raped, or any witness and the lawyer's a male, or
Right.
the jury has women and men? I mean, this thing could ruin the whole system.
Well, you say ruin. I would just say it makes it more fair, Joe. I mean, in fact, I think, if I'm ever accused of a crime, I'm going to say that I happen to be a transgender, gay, lesbian, American Indian with African American descent, and only someone like that has the right to question me.
First World War, the Germans developed gas warfare, and they start using it. And then what would happen in situations, the wind would shift and it would turn back on them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's happening, this bias, this selective outrage if it's a conservative or Republican opposed to a Democrat, everybody goes blind with the
Right.
It's just it's so ridiculous.
Well, Joe, where you are seeing that blowback and that chickens come home to roost is in some of these liberal universities where even the liberal professors are now not progressive or liberal enough that even they are being shouted down by their own students. Right. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Let me get a couple other people in that want to jump in on this as well. Let me get Paul in. Paul, you were on the Savage Nation. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you. First, let me say, excellent show. Excellent show.
Thanks.
I'm enjoying it intellectually. It's mentally challenging, and it's very, very informative.
Well, a lot of people have called me mentally challenged, so I understand. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to comment on your first caller. I think he had a great point, but I think he had the wrong question. Number one, I think that if Dr. Ford was drunk at this party, I think it could affect her memory and her perception of the facts that occurred that evening.
But see, Paul, you're not allowed to ask that question. You can't ask if she was drinking at the party. You can't ask if her memory was clouded. You can't ask anything like that, Paul. You just have to believe everything she said, and you cannot ask a single question, or you are one of those men that Senator Hirono was talking about, and you need to just shut up and step up, Paul.
Well, with that being said, also your second caller, I think he has an excellent point also.
Yes.
I think that this entire situation, this Hail Mary pass, and I'm calling this a Hail Mary pass because the Dems threw it out at the last second, the last play.
Is that a slight against women again with the Hail Mary pass? I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm just teasing you.
Yeah, I do believe that it is orchestrated, and that's the reason that Dr. Ford will never testify, because while she does remember some of the facts, I do believe this is an orchestrated claim, and that she's willing to make an accusation, but she's not willing to perjure herself in front of a congressional committee.
That's an interesting point, Paul. Thanks for getting in. A lot of good stuff in there. The one part that keeps getting me, because the way I'm jumping on you now, if you say, anything that's common sense, but of course you can't because you're a man and this is a woman, eventually shut up doesn't make a great argument. You know what I mean? Hey, wait a second, I'm not racist. Shut up. Wait, but I didn't do that. Shut up. But I'm actually trying to be fair. Shut up. Eventually, shut up doesn't work. Because eventually the people get tired of being told to shut up when they know they haven't done anything wrong, and they get angry. And they fight back. And that's kind of how we ended up with President Trump. And if the Democrats aren't careful, when people around the nation see that Judge Kavanaugh is not being treated fairly, and they see that, hey, this could happen to me or my son or my husband or my brother or my dad, they may not get exactly what they think they're going to get out of this. Because eventually this stuff does start to blow back. Everybody has the right to be listened to. Everybody doesn't have the right to be believed. There has to be actual facts and evidence to back that up. Kimberly Strassel from the Wall Street Journal was talking about this BS that the Democrats are demanding an FBI investigation. She says FBI background checks of nominees involve interviewing people and putting results in a file. The report goes to the White House and the Senate for guidance. The FBI is not sleuthing crimes in these background checks. And as the FBI has said, it has put the detailed claims of Dr. Ford in the file. She has been invited to testify. That's the FBI's job done. Any other investigation will be handled by local law enforcement according to the FBI. That is, if the statute of limitations were not long past. So where are we now? Well, the FBI has said, Democrats know this, and they're willfully misleading by suggesting the FBI has a different role here. That's not how it works. It would, in fact, be wildly irregular for the FBI to do anything more than it has, and it would look highly political. In fact, they said, well, wait a second. The FBI looked into Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill. That's because Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill were federal employees, and the alleged sexual harassment would have been at the federal level, in the federal purview. And they were more contemporaneous than 36 years ago. And by the way, the FBI couldn't find enough evidence to do anything with. And that doesn't stop Maureen Dowd from the New York Times of calling Clarence Thomas now a sexual predator. Based on what? That's the world we really want to live in now? Yeah, Maureen Dowd tweeted out that America already has one sexual predator on the Supreme Court. Wow. I mean, these people have no shame. Let me get Susan in, KSFO. Susan, my name's Greg Knapp, in for Dr. Savage on the Savage Nation. Go right ahead.
Hello. Dr. Ford, if she is a doctor of psychology, I believe that's what she teaches, she would have gone under analysis as part of the process to become a doctor. So why wasn't this incident brought up?
Well, Susan, how dare you suggest that she would have to say what's deep inside her just because the school requires her to go to therapy? Maybe it was so traumatic she just couldn't even talk about it, Susan. And how dare you accuse her of hiding this? I mean, that's what's going to happen. I totally understand what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I only have a master's in counseling psychology, and yet I was still required to go to individual therapy and group therapy so that I would understand what it's like to be a patient, which is what you're talking about, right, Susan? So, we if you're in that field, you have done that, and you would think that she would have talked about this since she said it was such a seminal moment in her life instead of waiting till 2012. Is that your point?
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for getting in, Susan. I appreciate it. Let me get Mason in, KLIF. He has that interesting perspective. Mason, you are on the Savage Nation. Go right ahead.
Well, howdy, Mr. Knapp.
Hey there.
Well, I happen to have been sexually assaulted as a child. It was in the Boy Scouts, and another boy did it. And just looking back on it, I did forget a lot of it. I chose to forget a lot of it. And so I no longer have a very accurate representation of what happened that day.
Sure.
However, this is weird because she built the scenario for her therapist, adding in 4 people. And suddenly she subtracted 2 of the people from the equation when she put Kavanaugh's name in it. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and that was only, 6 years ago that she made those statements to the therapist.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Mason, you're bringing up a great point, and I've tried to hit it a few times, so I'm glad you brought it up again. There is a very real possibility that you don't remember everything from a sexually traumatic experience. Some people remember the exact date and the exact time and the exact place. Some people forget all of that and only remember a face or a room or something that, special that happened in that room that just stood out to them, because it's so hard to keep that memory without re-traumatizing yourself every time you think about it. So some people remember it very clearly. Some people it's very foggy. Some people over time the memory shifts. There's no doubt. So, again, I am not saying Dr. Ford's making all this up. She could really believe this, or it could really be true, or she really could be lying and making it up. I don't know. And the point is, neither do any of these senators. But what they want to do is make it political and say, if you don't believe this woman 100% without any critical thinking, without any questions, without any evidence, without any corroborating witnesses, without even knowing when and where it actually happened, then you are some kind of sexist, awful old white man who shouldn't even have the opportunity to ask her a question. You're the problem and you should shut up. How's that feel? Pretty good, huh? Yeah, you know, because you're either a rapist, an attempted rapist, or a potential rapist, if you're a man. Can't figure out why that would get anybody upset. 855-400-SAVAGE gets you on the program. 855-400-SAVAGE. I'll keep talking about this as well, but I got to tell you something Google's doing with their mapping cars that might cost you some money. Coming up next, Savage Nation.
Savage.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Savage on the Savage Nation. Yes, we're talking about Judge Kavanaugh. We also got a couple other things. Google is just a great company, aren't they? And I mean, remember, they say do no evil. They're just great. And one of the things they're doing now, they're taking their Street View cars, you know, the ones that make the maps, and they are going to update them with pollution recording devices and patrol streets in Europe and in the United States. This is from the Washington Times. So what they're going to do, they're going to look and see if it's getting dirty air out there, and they're just there to help you, and it might cost you money. More environmental regulations for your cars, maybe more for businesses, builders. You're probably going to have to pay more for those permits, homeowners, more for your electricity. But, hey, it's all worth it if Google says we're polluting too much. Now, remember, the country that has actually come closest, actually has surpassed what would have been in the Paris Accords for our country in decreasing CO2 is the United States of America because of our fracking and our natural gas. All the European countries that have signed on to the Paris Accords that are so mad that we pulled out, they're not meeting their voluntary goals of the Paris Accords. But we are, even with that awful Trump in the White House. But, hey, Google's there to protect you because Google does no evil. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, except Google's China prototype censored search engine reportedly links the user's searches to their personal phone numbers so the commie Chinese government can see who's Googling things like student protest. Isn't that nice? Or Nobel Prize. Well, Google says, we've been looking at a lot of things, but we're nowhere close to putting something out really yet. They will do whatever they need to do to get into China and make money. Right, do no evil. My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Dr. Savage. More on Judge Kavanaugh in a minute. Savage.
Michael Savage, a host like no other.
To the word I'm about to read. I'm giving you a little English lesson. So the first word is, and I'm going to read you the word. See if you can tell me the opposite to that word. Gluttonish. What's the opposite of a gluttonous person? Abstemious. What's the opposite of real in actual existence? Number 3, an object of hatred. What's the object of hatred? The opposite of an object of hatred. What is the opposite of someone who is politically direct and honest? That would be Machiavellian. That would be the opposite. What is the opposite over the words control over the mob so that it is without power? What is the opposite of completely ignorant, knowing nothing? The opposite would be omniscient. What is the opposite of an idol? Someone loved by all. What is the opposite of an idol? Like, he's an idol or she's an idol. The opposite would be pariah, right? What is the opposite of someone who is indecisive or wavering? Peremptory. What is the opposite of leaving the emotions unaffected? Poignant. What is the opposite of someone who is satisfied or uncomplaining? That would be a querulous person. What is the opposite of someone who you say is authentic and true in every way? That would be a specious person. What about something that is found nowhere, completely absent? You can't find it anywhere. The opposite would be ubiquitous. So if I said that silica is ubiquitous in the sidewalks of New York, that would be an example of ubiquitous. What if I say that that person is crude and boorish? The opposite is unctuous. And finally, what's the opposite of someone who is modest? Vainglorious, right? Then I'm trying to show you words. It's complicated. The English language is a great language, but you have to study it. I can't imagine how hard it is for a foreigner to learn this language. It's very difficult. Most of us don't even speak English. especially with the advent of the social media. It's gone below that of a 6th or 5th grader in my day as a student, maybe below that of a 4th grader. How many words of English do you think the average person on Instagram or Facebook actually needs, or Twitter? What age level? What grade level? What IQ level? What IQ level do you think is functionally necessary to be on Twitter? An 80? Someone out of a mental asylum could go on Twitter and tweet, "Feel good today." That's all. That's all you need. You're a genius. Just show your bikini. All right. Anyway, that was my little lesson now. What's up? What else do I have? Oh, there's a funny thing about radio you don't understand that I learned over the years, which is that it doesn't mean like how many callers you get don't reflect on whether the people are enjoying the show. A lot of you become captivated by me like I'm a snake charmer. When you hear that I'm what's the word? Ebullient, and you feel my voice is bubbly and I'm excited like I am today, you'll basically sit back and listen. You won't call, right? But if I want to pump you to call, all I have to do is say certain key words like MAGA or liberals bad or wall, build that wall, or lock her up. I could get you to call if I wanted, with questions based upon the key words that trigger you. But I'm not Bill Maher. I mean, or the schmuck on Morning Joe. What an idiot he is. These people are so low, they do anything for ratings. Don't they realize how stupid they sound? Did they really care? When I wrote Stop Mass Hysteria, and I said America's insanity from the Salem witch trials to the Trump witch hunt, which will be out in 2 weeks from today or 2 weeks from Tuesday or so, I do mention some of these Joe Palookas in the media. They're whipping up the mass hysteria in this country, and there ought to be a law against it. I think there should be a law. The problem is who's going to determine who in the media is whipping up the mass hysteria. It'll be determined by who's in office, right? Yeah, well, that's the problem. That's why we have no censorship. That's why the genius founding fathers gave us the First Amendment, to make sure that there was no censorship. So the problem is when you give people like Zuckerberg more power than they're entitled to, and they become a public utility, but they're not regulated as such, they then become censors worse than a government would be able to become. There's no FCC controlling them. It should be. See, if you're not going to make them a government entity, a public utility, there'd be something equivalent of the Federal Communications Commission, Social Communications Commission, SCC. Okay, I want to be the head of the SCC. And I want to tell Zuckerberg and the others what they can and cannot do to censor conservatives. I think there should be a Socials Communications Commission. I'm not going to ask you should there be. There should be. I read that there's a misery index, and people are more miserable than ever today, which I found to be interesting in a strange way. People are more miserable today than ever in history. Well, I can't say in history. I would say that during the Holocaust or the plague, people might have been more miserable. But someone did a thing on misery. They do a misery index. It's an interesting topic, right? Turns out that the United States, we are more miserable than anyone on earth except Greeks. Now, I understand why Greeks are miserable. Greeks are most miserable people on the planet. And that's because ever since Plato came along and introduced logic, they've been miserable because they had to live with logic and reason. Look what it's done to them. They're now the most miserable people on the planet. I mean, if you want to be happy, have no reason and no logic and just vote for a Democrat. And listen to, who do you fear more, Florence or Maxine Waters? I think Maxine Waters is more dangerous than Hurricane Florence to the safety of the United States of America, that is. You know what just happened, right? Guy pulled out a switchblade, tried to stab a Republican in California. That got buried by the local newspaper. Another one burned a Republican campaign headquarters. That got buried by the vermin in the media. And it's all being triggered by people like Maxine Waters, in my opinion. That's why I don't want to talk about him. Because if I was in Congress, I would not stop filibustering until Maxine Waters was censored for provoking violence amongst the morons who believe in her. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Have you ever taken your car in for an oil change? Your mechanic finds something wrong, and bingo, surprise, you're hit with a huge repair bill. And what happens when you're not covered by the manufacturer's warranty? You're paying out of your own pocket to fix it, that's what. That's why I recommend extended vehicle protection from CarShield. If your car has 5,000 to 150,000 miles, CarShield can save you from paying for high repair bills. Replacing your engine or even a simple sensor can cost thousands. But when you're protected by CarShield, you can have your favorite mechanic or dealership fix your car. It's your choice. CarShield also provides 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car while yours is being fixed for free. Get covered by the ultimate and extended vehicle protection. Get CarShield. How? Call 800-CAR-6100. 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 Mention code SAVAGE or visit carshield.com. Use code SAVAGE to save a big 10%. That's carshield.com or 800-CAR-6100. Code SAVAGE. Summer is gone, but not the sunspots, inflamed patches, and UV damage to your face, neck, and shoulders. I'd like to introduce Genucel's brand new sunspot corrector during Chamonix's summer repair sale for a limited time. Roseanne from Akron says, "Oh, in just days I saw a lightening of dark spots on my cheeks. I'm ordering more now." I gave my friend some of this to try, and boy, did they like it. It was a real test, and this guy really liked it. Yes, he's a guy. And just like Roseanne, if you click or call right now, you'll get the Genucel Sunspot Corrector absolutely free just for trying Genucel for bags and puffiness today. Finally, see those stubborn sunspots vanish, even the ones you had for years, and those bags and puffiness gone. And for results in less than 12 hours, the Genucel Immediate Effects is also free. Please go to Genucel.com now or call 800-SKIN-891, 800-SKIN-891. And listen, for a limited time, Chamonix's microdermabrasion is also yours free for the first time this year. You heard me now. Order now. Shipping is also free. So say goodbye to wrinkles, dark spots, and sunspots today. Please go to Genucel.com now. I'm Michael Savage, and you're listening to Talk 1300 at 98.7. We're talking about, we started with Mark Wahlberg's zealous physical regimen, getting up to 30, all that. And then I told you I was a zealot when I was yet in my 30s. I'd run up mountains. I wrote for Runner's Magazine. I wouldn't touch a piece of meat. And things changed as I went into radio. I needed the energy to do a daily show. It's much different than almost any other form of entertainment or activity because your mind has to be sharp for hours a day. You can't miss a word. I mean, if you're an actor, you can take breaks. You're reading a script. You don't really have to think that much, except how to look or how to do the part, I guess. But that's not as heavy a thought as trying to analyze topics and then handle callers. So I needed to fuel my brain. And my brain needs a lot of protein, especially animal protein. So I was talking about that. Then I'm talking about the misery index. A new article came out, says a lot of people are miserable these days. And it was a big study by Gallup, 154,000 people in more than 145 countries released today the so-called Negative Experience Index. It's an average of people's reports of their daily levels of worry, stress, physical pain, sadness, and anger. Highest level since Gallup began measuring the data 10 years ago. And the U.S. is really high up there, higher than the average around the world, because we work harder than anywhere else, except for Greece, which is higher. The Greeks also, they were stressed a lot more. Very, very high. And I jokingly said, because the Greeks have been nervous and stressed since Aristotle, who gave them a logic. And since they've been logical, they've been miserable. If you're not logical and you're stupid, you don't worry too much. Your stress is low. You're probably in low physical pain if you're a dummy. You're not sad or angry if you're a dumbbell. So I was asking myself, you, the people, what do you think is missing? Worry, stress, physical pain, sadness, anger. Why is it so high in America? Well, they came up with a reason. And the reason is political anxieties, money and work are big stresses in America's lives. People worry about the political climate of the country. They worry about work. And 59% believe that this is the lowest point in our nation's history that they can remember, which is absolutely crazy. This is because of the psychopaths in the media, like those who run CNN and MSNBC, who continually foment hatred and discontent in the country, while we have the most booming economy in modern memory. We're at peace, not at war. There are no riots other than those caused by Maxine Waters and those kind of incendiary individuals who thrive on hatred and demagoguery. The country's at peace. Economy is booming. Everyone who wants to work is working. There's no hunger. And yet people are miserable because idiots in the media keep fomenting their discontent, which is a very dangerous thing for society. And as you know, yesterday, a man tried to stab a Republican in the Bay Area of San Francisco, but his switchblade didn't work. And then a Republican headquarters was burned somewhere, I think, in Oregon, again by a left-winger, again promoted by MSNBC, CNN, Maxine Waters, who every day tell them if you see a Republican out there, go up to them and confront them, basically. So we do have reasons for these things. There are triggers. There are triggers for it. And when you yell fire in a crowded theater, as Maxine Warner does,